Hi all. Something slightly different today. I've been becoming very enthusiastic about Twitter, especially today. I've done my record number of tweets today, and also I've noticed an organisation, ChessTweets, who are doing an experiment with Twitter, and it's based on the rest of the world concept. And let me read you some of what they say. Basically, they say in the Kasparov versus rest of the world match of 1999, Kasparov was considered the favourite. Because previous examples of the majority of internet voting resulted in mediocre competition. The reason for these poor performances was basically that the most popular move for a given board state is not necessarily the best move. And so the world team overcame this handicap against Kasparov by appointing for grandmasters. At the time, though, I don't think there were grandmasters. Irina Crash, I'm not sure. She might have just been a WIM, but certainly Daniel King was a grandmaster, and he was kind of one of the panel. So anyway, ChessTweets is basically saying that this panel enforced vetoes with necessary and guided the popular vote. So in a way, that neutralised this idea that a majority vote in chess leads to a mediocre move. From my experience at Chess World during the early rest of the world games, especially when there was no vote changing facility, it was obvious to me that the most stereotypical sort of obvious lowest common denominator move was being played all the time, and the team got thrashed a few times, to be honest. So how is ChessTweets going to address this? Basically, they're going to measure in a sort of evolutionary way the strength of each contributor and assign a kind of weighting to their vote, and their preliminary ideas on this, and you can email them at chesstweets@gmail.com. But if you have any ideas, is basically they're going to take the number of times a participant has suggested a move in the community game that was both selected and eventually led to a win. And then another criteria is the same thing, but eventually led to a loss. And the third criteria, participants' ELO rating in private games. And they also give a strong note about computer usage. Not saying that they care so much about it, or that they can even forbid it, but just that they want their voters to be consistent in how strong they play, because basically from each match they want to learn about their participants and weight the thing. So if there's an inconsistency, that will be difficult to sort of manage. So they say they want players to enjoy participating in the ChessTweets project and want everyone to continue their participation. And it has some suggestions. Separate yourself from any numerical rankings ChessTweets may assign you. Members of all skill levels are very important to the ChessTweets experiment. Avoid a computer chess program in favour of natural study of the game. Challenge friends and strangers to personal games, irrespective of the separation in skill level. So if you can gain more enjoyment out of the ChessTweets experiment by following a different set of guidelines, by all means do. But ChessTweets basically only ask the following: be consistent in your play. Participants who largely vary in skill, because half the time they can start a pro and the other half they play at beginner's level, are the most detrimental to the ChessTweets experiment. So how long do you get to make a move? Currently, moves in public games are tallied manually on a 24-hour basis. So once they hit a critical mass, they say that the moves will be tallied by some sort of automated time schedule, and it will be exactly once every 24 hours after X valid votes have been submitted that the move will be played. So their current goal is to grow to a point such that public moves are made every 100 vote submissions. So their first game, this is their first game, so E4. E5, and let's not be too critical here. So given the model of how this is started, and it's just basically an experiment where in general a majority vote would mean generally a very stereotypical move, but bishop b5 was played, so not bishop c4, so very good so far. Knight f6, castles, knight takes c4, still all theory. Rook e1, but here knight d6 I think is a good move. What was played was knight g5. I'm not sure that's that common. According to Ribka here, this is better for white. But to follow their guidelines, actually, I'm going to turn Ribka off because I'm going to favour my natural study of the position. It's been turned off now, and I'm going to close my Ribka engine window, and I'm just going to comment on this game without any engine analysis. So knight g5, knight takes e5. So the idea here is still to, get the knight e6. So knight e6. Now queen f3. So, maybe black is okay here with this route instead of knight c5 to g5. So it's knight c5 to e6. But how does, how does a defense organized on f7? That's a bit tricky. I mean, maybe queen f6. I'm looking at this without any sort of engine help, but I don't know. Knight takes, queen takes f3. I don't know actually. It just looks unusual for black, this position, and black certainly made a blunder now by playing f6. So the voting team for black, because it does allow queen h5 picking up the exchange now. Black obviously doesn't want king e7 because queen f7, but after g6, knight takes g6, and we have this nasty pin on the h pawn. So black lost the exchange, and there's not too much compensation here. So knight c3 and now threatening knight d5, almost going to win another exchange now with a fork of king and queen. Sorry, king and rook. So knight d4, knight d5, queen g7. So now knight takes c7, exploiting the pin on the knight. So winning two exchanges potentially. Knight takes a8, but that wouldn't have been that good, I think, because knight takes b5, and maybe the knight's getting trapped, although I'm not sure. Yes, because this knight's also stopping c7. So say knight takes a8, knight takes b5. I don't think white can get that knight out. So basically black kept their cool here. Sorry, the players with white, they did knight takes e6, just content to be one exchange up. And now bishop d3 protects that c2 pawn from the knight. And now c3, and white now establishes a nice centre with trying for d4, and not being prepared, even to sack a pawn here. It gets the lines opened. I think it's too risky for taking a knight d4, because maybe just bishop e3 and then rook d1, or just rook d1, and then if bishop c5, bishop e3, it looks dangerous for black. So black just played bishop d6, now bishop e3. So black's at least trying to coordinate an attack on h2, and now b5. So the knight is a bit dim on the rim, and black plays to win the h2 pawn, but it's a bit futile. Being the exchange down after bishop e5, white just played rook c1 and doesn't mind even rook h1 because just king e2. But black played a final trap, trying to stop the king coming to e2 very very soon after f4. Losing that a7 pawn, it's lost for black, but they cheekily tried bishop g4, so there's a threat of rook h1, and it's good that obviously it shows that there's no vote stuffing possible, so they didn't stuff a bad vote, so it can't be abused too much, this format. White avoided this mating one, and even playing king g1, because that might allow f3, which could be dangerous. Say g3, bishop h3 to g2, that would be mating as well. So white avoided all that by simply playing the crushing f3. So that avoids rook h1 being a problem at all, and avoids f3 from black. And with this, the black team resigned. So I know we can look at this game as though it's not that GM quality, but it's the experiment, the concept, which is the important thing. And there were some interesting resources there. And it wasn't totally stereotypical. And the important thing is, from what I gather, if they learn, who is more credible for later games and give them a slightly higher voting weight, then the games are going to become a higher quality. And they played another game apart from this, and their third game would be against Jennifer Shahade, who was I think one on the panel of the Kasparov versus Rest of the World match. So it's very interesting. I'm following them, and I'm on Twitter. Please follow me as well as them. So they're Chess Tweets. I'm King's Crusher. Come on to Twitter and start tweeting. Thanks very much.